Okay, so we've all seen what tools like ChatGPT can do. I mean, it feels like magic, right? They can write poems, debug code, answer these super complex questions. But have you ever stopped to wonder how it actually works? Well, today, that's what we're going to do. We're going to pull back the curtain and really look at the engine underneath the hood.
To really get our heads around this, we have to start with a kind of strange idea. The concept that what we're seeing, what feels like real intelligence, might just be an illusion. A very, very convincing illusion. And we're about to find out how the trick is done. So let's just dive right in with this bombshell of a statement, taken straight from the source material for this explainer. ChatGPT doesn't know anything. Seriously, it doesn't have facts stored away like a computer. It doesn't have memories or beliefs. It doesn't know things the way you and I do. Just let that sink in for a minute.
And that right there, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? If this thing truly knows nothing, how on earth can it write a perfect email or explain quantum physics or create a recipe from scratch? How does it sound so incredibly smart? That's the puzzle we're here to solve. All right, so let's get into the nuts and bolts of it. We're moving past the magic show and into the mechanics. And you're going to see that it has way less to do with thinking and way more to do with a really, really clever prediction game. So here's the first thing most people get wrong. You ask it a question, and you probably think it's acting like a super fast search engine, scouring the live internet for answers. But nope, that's not what's happening at all. The real story is that it was trained a while back on a gigantic snapshot of text from the internet. It's not searching for anything new. It's just using the patterns it already learned from all that data. And this brings us to the single most important concept you need to understand. At its core, ChatGPT is basically just a next word prediction engine. That's its whole job. It looks at the text you gave it and makes a statistical guess about which word is most likely to come next. That's it. That's the fundamental trick.
And the way it builds those long, complex answers is through a really simple loop. So you give it a prompt, it uses all the patterns it learned to predict just one word, the most probable next one. Then it tacks that word onto the end of the prompt, and does the exact same thing again with the new, slightly longer sentence. It just repeats this process, word by word by word, hundreds of times until an entire response is built.
Okay, so now we know how it works. But what's the consequence of a system like this? What happens when a machine's only goal is to make a sentence that sounds right, not one that is right? Well, you get some pretty interesting results. You see, this whole next word prediction game is precisely why it sounds so smart and so human. Think about it. It has analyzed more human writing, books, articles, conversations, than any of us could read in 1,000 lifetimes. So it has become an absolute master at mimicking the patterns of human language. It knows exactly what an intelligent answer is supposed to look and feel like. But here's the other side of that coin. Because it has zero concept of truth or falsehood, it only cares about what's statistically probable, it can spit out things that are completely made up. And it will say them with all the confidence of a college professor, because the sentence structure is plausible. It literally doesn't know the difference between fact and fiction. So, after pulling back the curtain and looking at the gears turning, what is the big takeaway? What's the one thing to keep in your head every time you use one of these tools? It all comes down to one final, super important distinction. And here it is. This is the core idea. The intelligence we're seeing is really just expert-level pattern matching. It can imitate the sound of understanding so perfectly that it's almost impossible for us to tell the difference. But the actual, genuine comprehension, it's just not there. It sounds intelligent, but it doesn't understand. And that leaves us with a pretty mind-bending question to chew on, doesn't it? We have built a tool that can perform tasks we've always associated with deep thinking, but it does them without a single spark of real understanding. So, what does that mean for us? For our jobs? For our creativity? For what we even consider to be intelligence? That's something to think about.